Welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel.
And I'm Janet.
And this is Coffee Talk. So before we get into the topic of the day, I want to talk about the coffee we're drinking. This is Beyond Black from Black Rifle Coffee. I like their coffee and their mission, what they're trying to do, supporting veterans and first responders. So it's great coffee. If you haven't had it, try it out. They do the grains and the K-Cups. They're not sponsoring this video, but I'm not against that idea entirely. So, all right, in case you see this. So today we're going to talk about Butcher Day. If you follow in the channel, you saw some videos when we were butchering the pigs, harvesting the meat. You know, it's been a lot of work. We put a lot of hours into it. We just want to talk about some of the things we just kind of talk about the process, how long it took, you know, talk a little bit about the pigs, and a little bit about why we butcher ourselves versus going to the, you know, just shipping them to a butcher shop. So I think I'll start with the why, and we'll kind of work our way through this. So in terms of why we butcher ourselves, I feel like we can guarantee a very humane experience for the animals. Not to say a butcher shop wouldn't, but I want to be able to guarantee that we're responsible for the animals, right, for care through their entire life.
It's less stressful.
It's less stressful for the animals. We're not loading them up into a truck and hauling them to a special place, so we can guarantee a very humane experience. And also we get better quality. We can control the cuts. We don't have to worry about you know, any kind of sneaky substitutions, or hey, did the butcher keep this, or the butcher keep that? And you know, and part of it is being connected to the animal, connected to the process. You may not agree with eating meat, and that's fine, and you may not agree with you know, growing your own and harvesting your own meat or your own animals, but certainly I believe you have a much deeper connection to the substance, you know, to the food you're taking in when you've spent the time to raise it and feed it and care for the animal. I think you appreciate it much more than just going, hey, we went to the grocery store and we got some chicken and we got some pork and a cow and maybe some ducks or whatever you got at the grocery store. There's no connection, and no, you know, people lose that understanding of where the meat comes from. And yes, I mean, you are taking a life, you're taking the animal's life. And you want to do that respectfully, and honor that animal and be thankful for their, you know, you could say their sacrifice. Right. So going on that, in terms of how long it took, so we started the day. It's a long process. Right. You know,
it felt like forever.
It was very much.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, it was worth it. We started the day about 6 a.m.
Which is early.
Yeah, which is very early. Yeah.
Not you, but for me.
Right, yeah, it was very early. We started the day about 6 a.m. And we were still working at about 9 p.m. that night. We were still working, and that was just the processing. We're not going to get into, I know, probably make some people uncomfortable, too many details of certain parts of the process. But that's a 15-plus hour day that we spent just to get through the first part, which is to say to have meat, you know, what you would call meat in the freezer, right, to cut in.
And we had a friend help too.
Yeah, we had a friend help. Jake came over.
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jake, from Jake's Place. If you're watching this, check out his channel. He does woodworking. He does beekeeping. He's got his own homestead set up. He makes custom coops. Really cool guy. Not too many friends will come over your house and help you on a 15-hour day, knowing going in that it was a 15 probably plus hour work day to come over and help us out. So we're really thankful for that. Takes a good friend to do that.
He's a good friend.
So I think we talked about the type of pigs, if you want to get into that a little bit. What kind of pigs we raised and why?
Well, we have a local breeder that is in East Texas. And she raises red wattle pigs, which red wattle hogs are native to East Texas. But she also has some crosses there. So one of the babies Dad was a registered purebred red wattle. And if you know hogs, you know that that's very rare. You know, they're actually endangered as registered. But Dad's a red wattle. And Mom, I believe, was, I think, a Berkshire and Old Spot cross. But she was real dark red, but she was not double wattled. And then our other one was, Dad is red wattle and Mom was a red wattle Berkshire Cross. And I noticed that the girl who was, and she was double wattled. The girl who was double wattled she was significantly, her body frame was totally different.
Right.
You know,
You can see physically the
you could
differences
physically, yeah.
in the breeds.
You could
right.
see that you could see she was a red wattle, because red wattles are the fastest growing pigs. They can get up to 1,200 pounds
Right, giant.
as adults.
Giant.
They're big.
Yeah,
They
giant
are big
animals.
feeders.
Right, giant animals.
And she finished out at, I think, 588 hanging weight, or live weight.
Live weight.
Yeah,
Live
588 live weight. That was the red wattle.
We'll talk about
She
how we
was
figured
about
that out.
10 months old, but
Yeah.
that's what they were. They were, I believe they were from from different litters, but we picked them up the same day.
Yeah, same day. Heathen Hog Farm in Eustis.
In Eustis, Texas.
Eustis, Texas, great place.
Amazing.
She's amazing, good customer
Veteran.
support. Yeah,
doing it
US
all by
vets,
herself.
Right, doing it all by herself, raising pigs. We get them from
Yep.
her as babies, and we raise them, and we really appreciate what she's doing over there.
Yeah, she's
Super
great.
nice. And
I mean, if you don't understand hogs
Yeah.
or how to raise a pig, she will teach you.
Right.
She is always at the other end of the line.
Absolutely,
She's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, around any questions, she's been great.
Yeah.
So in terms of how big the pigs were, so we got a scale. Every
They started out little babies.
Right,
We'll show
yeah.
a little clip behind
yeah,
you.
we started. Yeah, we'll put some clips in here as we're
They
talking.
were about 2 months old.
Right, somewhere maybe over here.
Yeah.
I don't know. People always point on the screen.
Right.
Clip's going to be around
Who
here
knows,
wherever we
somewhere.
feel like it.
But
later
we got them they were about 2 months old.
Yeah, about 2
Yeah.
months old.
They should be.
Yeah.
They should be 2 months old or older when you
Right,
get a pig.
right, 'cause they
I
have to
believe.
be
They have to
weaned.
be, yeah, they should be off mama.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
So she's always really good making sure that they are off mama for a while. So they were probably about 2.5 months,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Yeah,
because I
they
think
were
around
big.
8 weeks
They were a good size, but
Yeah.
not too big that we couldn't. We have to load them, right? So you got to pick them up and put
They
them
fit in a
in.
dog
Right?
kennel.
Yeah, large dog kennel.
Mm-hmm.
We brought them home and obviously put them in their new home. And I think you see the videos. They were very happy, well taken care of animals.
They were good
But in terms of size, like at the end, there's a couple ways you can tell the size of a pig. Obviously, if you have a scale that you can get it to stand on, that'll register 600 pounds plus, because the animals can get to 1,200 pounds. Suppose you could walk it on the scale. There's a way to measure them, right? You take a measuring tape, and there's different areas you can measure. And over time, people have figured out that certain measurements, and there's a mathematical formula,
Right, and I think
gives you a
that
sense for the
is-
weight.
You measure from right behind their ears,
Yeah.
and they need to be looking down as if they were eating.
Right,
Because
right,
you get
head
that
down.
curve of the neck.
Yeah,
So you have to measure from the back of the ears to the tip of the tail
yeah,
to get your length.
right.
And then you need to get the heart girth, which is right behind the front quarters. And you just do that. You take a measuring tape and tape that all the way around,
Right.
and you get that measurement. So then you take the heart girth times the heart girth,
Mhm.
because it's twice.
Right,
So it's heart girth times the length
yeah,
divided by 4, I think.
yeah,
Is it divided by 4?
something.
Something like
Google
that.
it.
Google it.
If you wanna know.
Tractor Supply has
Right, if you wanna know.
formula. I think
Right,
it's divided by
right.
4. I don't know.
Evil
But I
Tractor
will tell
Supply.
you, I will tell you though that it really hasn't been very accurate.
No, it has not been super accurate. So what we got is, as part of the butchering processing the animal, we had a crane, and you lift them up on the crane, and it just makes the process easier.
Which we did for our
And
last
since
hog.
the last hog, we got a scale that attaches to the crane. Well, these girls were kind of big, so as we were cranking them up the crane snapped in half.
Like
right,
snapped.
broke in half.
It didn't even
So-
move the hog.
Right, didn't even move. Just the crane, the
It wasn't
hog's here,
even
the
a
crane's
slow
here,
process.
and the crane just went like that to
It
the
just
pig.
went.
It didn't go. Pig didn't go to the crane went to the pig. So the big animals.
Right.
So we have a butcher book.
She said no.
Right, we have a butcher book, and the butcher book gives some mathematical formulas to say if your pig weighs this much, the hams would make up, I believe, 17% of the weight. So we were able to weigh the hams, and then we were kind of reverse engineered the hams using the formula in the old butcher book.
And the ham is the back of your back leg.
Right, back legs.
Your whole back leg
Right.
down to the hock.
Yep, yep. So that's where we came up with probably, they were around 600 pounds each.
Yeah.
which is pretty big.
They're big girls.
Big girls. All right, so we got how big the pigs were, and if you've never raised pigs before, I think one of the reasons they are a food source is they do grow very big, very quickly.
Especially the red wattles,
Yeah.
they grow fast.
Yeah, they grow big very quickly, and the actual food conversion rate in terms of animals, once again, if you're against eating animals, none of the food conversion
You're
rate's going to
probably
be
not
good enough.
watching this.
But the food conversion rate, I think, is 1 to 3, and it is actually pretty good in terms of animals, meaning what you feed them versus the amount of meat they provide. The food conversion rate on pigs is pretty good.
Yeah.
So, that's how big the pigs were. You want to talk about, as we were processing them, the types of kind of cuts we did.
You want to talk about how old they were?
We could talk
When we
about how old they
processed
were.
them?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So most people process around 6 months old, usually,
Right.
around 6 months.
Right. You want to stop. There's a point of diminishing returns.
Exactly.
Where you're not getting, that conversion rate as they get bigger, they're just eating and getting fat.
Right, they're
Right.
just
The
putting fat
conversion
on.
rate, there's a diminishing returns curve there, and you hit a point where you're giving them food and they're really not, producing in the way you'd want.
They're not
converting.
producing the good fat.
Right, they're not converting the
Unless
food
you're
in the
making
way
your
you
own
want.
soap.
Right.
If you're making your own soap, then
Yeah,
they're just
then that's probably
they're just
good.
putting on soap fat for
Right,
you.
yeah, right. We're not there yet.
Which is fine,
Right.
but we butchered them out. They had just reached 10 months.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, 6 months
Right.
or 8 months.
Yeah.
Honestly, we were just waiting for a good day.
We were waiting for a good day, right? We don't have a walk-in refrigerator. Some people do, we don't. So for us, we waited for the weather to cool off into the 30s. So really the outside, the outside was a walk-in fridge at that point.
Right.
It's nearly the same temperature as a refrigerator. So you start cooling, you're basically in a refrigerator, and that really kind of, I think, helps the process a lot. Yeah.
Plus, I'll be honest, I was enjoying them.
Yeah. We
So
liked
the
having
longer
them around. We did, we
they
actually
stay,
liked-
the happier I was.
Right, you can play with
because
them. We liked having them
I could
around.
play with them,
Yeah.
and I mean they're very sweet. So when
Yeah,
it cooled
absolutely.
down, I could spend more time outside with them. So I had
Right.
a good time with them. So they were about 10 months old.
Yeah.
They had gone into heat
Yeah.
one time, which usually a hog will go into heat around 10 months. And I mean, from this breeder that we have, there's a genetic part of some pigs that when the girls go into heat, the gills go into heat, they smell like maple syrup.
Right, their whole body
Like
smells. Right, the whole body
smell-
smells. They're like sweating out
Yes.
maple syrup.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
And
It's
not
actually
all.
a thing. You can Google it.
Yeah, and not all
actually a
hogs smell like that.
Yeah.
But our breeder
Yeah.
it's like she's got the maple syrup gene.
Right, whatever that gene is.
Whoever
It's the weirdest
she
thing.
whatever sow
Yeah.
she's breeding has it,
Yeah,
because I mean they smell good.
right.
Like
yeah.
you can smell them when you're walking towards them, and I'm kissing the pig, so when I go up and kiss them on the
You
head,
can actually smell
like your
pigs.
hands smell like maple syrup even after you wash them
Yeah.
for a long time. So
Right. Absolutely.
people say that pigs are gross and they smell, and they don't. Ours didn't.
No, they didn't. They really didn't. And I think when you're talking about the smell of the animal, there's the actual animal itself, the body, but you're probably really talking more about the feces, the waste,
Right.
the urine, and a lot of that then depends
Or
on
the boar taint.
boar taint.
Because
Yeah, we
boars
haven't done
have
boars. We probably
the
not
males
do
have
boars.
a scent to them to attract
Yeah.
the females, so
Yeah,
maybe that's what they're talking about. Because the
Right.
females, I mean,
they don't really smell bad, but part of it
Yeah.
is the space you have, right? I mean,
Right.
when you look at commercial, pig farms, as I understand it, generally a pig pen in a commercial situation is going to be about 5 foot by 10 foot
on cement.
on cement. Yeah, and that's just that's what they've set up, and maybe they consider that ethical. We had significantly more space than that.
Right,
Like using that number, we probably could have had 30 pigs in our pig pen.
right.
And I can imagine that would smell, right? That's a lot of pigs on that area. We had 2, and that's a pretty comfortable number for us. I think 2, they have each other for company when you have
Yeah.
2,
Yeah.
as opposed to maybe just having one.
Because they're herd animals.
Right.
They like
I
to,
think
they like
too.
to cuddle
Yeah,
and snuggle
yeah.
with each other.
I think 2 works out a little bit better. All right, so getting into kind of the butchering process. So I think we have some cuts. We did some shorts. We're going to drop some videos in here. The purpose of this video isn't to teach you how to butcher, a pig or butcher an animal. We might do a video on that at some point, but there's plenty of videos out there. This is really,
honestly, I learned from the bearded butchers.
yeah, bearded butchers on
Love
the
those
cuts.
guys.
Yeah. So how
If
did
you want it
learn?
step by step, those guys
Right.
are
Yeah, for getting the cuts, getting the
multi-generational
meats.
butchers, and they are awesome.
Great channel.
So check them out.
Great channel. We also had a butcher book. I bought a butcher book.
Yeah.
We read a book on butchering. There's a lot of great YouTube videos. So in terms of how we learned how to butcher, reading books on it, actually the old school way to learn stuff. From experience, we've butchered other animals like chickens and ducks. We did ducks one year. We had like 20 ducks we butchered out.
Ducks are a tough.
Ducks are tough. Yeah, that may be a different video.
Yeah, they're interesting to butcher.
Yeah, self-sufficient meat. He did a video, 10 reasons why he doesn't like raising ducks anymore.
I agree.
And they're all, yes to all of them.
Right.
Ducks are very difficult. We did turkeys. We did turkeys in one year.
Yeah, I
So
love
we built up experience starting with like a chicken and a duck and a turkey. We read books on it. We watched YouTube videos on it. So I mean, we developed that knowledge and kind of the way people would normally develop knowledge on how to do it. So we're not here to tell you how to do it. Maybe we could at some point.
Yeah, and what
do
we
that
did
video.
is, we did your basic stuff that you're supposed to do,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and then we took it down into primals.
Right. You break the animal into primals, which means cutting it in quarters.
Yeah, and
So
then
basically like 4 chunks.
yeah,
you know.
and then you work on that. You work on that piece. Your back leg, your hind leg is going to be your ham,
Yeah.
and then your front leg is going to be your. You're going to have your hocks. Save your hocks. If you're going to butcher yourself, please make sure you save your
The
hocks.
hocks are great.
Hocks are, if you have a pellet smoker or a regular smoker,
Yeah.
if you smoke the hocks on the smoker, they just shred, almost like you could do like a brisket that you might do, and they are great for making tacos.
Right.
For making tacos or tamales.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
absolutely.
just absolutely delicious. So, I mean, you don't want to waste that. But, and then the front is where you're gonna get your roasts from. You're gonna get like your picnic roast and your blade roast, where you're gonna do your pulled pork and stuff.
Right.
The center of the body, which is I think is the most difficult to butcher, is the center of the body, because when you have the center of the body, you have to look for your leaf fat or leaf lard. You want to pull out your leaf lard, and then you're going to get your ribs from there. You're going to get your spare ribs. You're going to get your baby back ribs. Tucked in with the baby back ribs is your entire pork loin that you're going to cut your chops off of, and then you have your tenderloin that kind of goes on the back of the spine down, and then the side of the pig, your side of your pig all the way to the belly is your bacon. So we've got a lot of bacon.
Yeah, got a lot of bacon.
But I mean,
we
I
got
think
bacon.
personally that's where your most intricate work is. So
You gotta be very careful throughout the entire process. Very easy to damage that.
Right, it's very easy to
and
damage
speaking
that.
of the bacon, we think we got between 60, 80 pounds of bacon from the 2 pigs, and that's right now curing. Right,
Yes,
you don't talk about that at all. It's curing. We got a refrigerator outside, and the bacon's curing.
Yeah, I found, I looked online, I looked at the Bearded Butchers, I looked at
Bearded Butchers,
a
yeah,
couple
great guys.
other websites, and just found a brine recipe that worked. So I had my pieces of bacon, and it was a combination, I think, of the pink salt, the Cure #1,
Right, #1 curing
and
salt.
regular salt, and water.
Yeah,
And that's it.
right.
As Bearded Butchers say,
Right.
just plain vanilla
Just-
is what I did.
Yeah,
It was
right,
like the
yeah,
recipe, because,
absolutely.
and then when you're done brining, and you should brine for about 10 to 14 days, you could take that piece and you could smoke it if you want to.
Right, right.
Cold
We'll
smoke
probably-
it. You
probably
should
won't
cold.
smoke it this time.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably we did
We have
last
some
time.
smoked last time. You can
Right.
I would
Yeah.
recommend cold smoking it. Thank you. Cold smoking it, and you could, pick your flavors, hickory or cherry or whatever. I think last time I did a combination. I did some cherry and some hickory and some mesquite. But, and then get yourself a nice deli slicer.
Right.
if you were gonna do
Right, we
bacon,
have
so
the
you can
deli
make your cuts.
slicer, yeah, and we're doing that tomorrow.
Yeah,
So we
tomorrow's
might do
bacon
some
day.
videos, some shorts, I'm not sure, we'll just see how we feeling. It's a lot of slicing, 80 pounds of bacon, or whatever it ends up being, is a lot of slicing to do.
Totally worth it.
One of the other things we did was sausage, and we made some videos on that. That was a lot of work, right? We probably
Yeah.
spent, I work during the day, so after work, we probably spent 4 or 5+ hours a day for maybe 4 or 5 days of just stuffing sausage, grinding meat, stuffing
Yeah.
sausage.
That's why butchers will charge more
Right,
to
for
make
sausage,
sausage,
yeah.
because they have to cut it.
Yeah,
When they break down that hog, they have to break it down into cubes,
right,
and then
right,
they have to grind it.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
first they'll season it, whatever seasoning you
Yeah.
want, and that obviously costs money. And then they grind it, and after they grind it, they put it through again to stuff it, but that's a second grind that kind of
Right.
gives the consistency, and then you have to pay for the casings, so
Yeah, yeah, you're paying for sausage.
it's very labor intensive.
Very
And
labor,
it's an
yeah,
art.
a lot of hours. It is
It
an art.
is an
It
art.
is an art.
So-
How you mix the meat, how you mix the cuts, how much fat do you mix in?
Right.
What fat do you mix in? Because not all fat is the same.
Right, I rendered the leaf lard on these
Yeah,
hogs.
right, you did.
But I used some of that leaf lard
Yeah,
for the sausage, as well as just whatever was marbled
right,
in.
yep.
And very thin layer of the outside.
Right. So
Because
there
that
was some
stuff
fat
does
in there.
not break down very
Do you
well.
want to talk about the
grinded.
different types of sausages we made?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sure, let's get into it.
Oh, my gosh.
Let's do this, and we'll probably put somewhere, maybe we'll do a little video, you can see, we got a stand-up freezer, and it's packed with sausage, and that was the idea. I mean, that's our food, we'll eat that, probably a year's or more's worth of sausage, and we share with our friends and family and whatnot.
Well,
Give
the
my
reality
parents
is
some already.
we did our first hog
Right,
at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Like our first
Yeah.
year's
Yeah.
worth of hog was the
Yeah.
beginning of the year, and we still have
right,
pork chops from it, we
Yeah.
still have hams from it, we still
Right.
have roasts from it.
Yeah.
So when we were ready to butcher these hogs, what we didn't have left was sausage.
right, yeah, this first thing to get eaten was the sausage.
That's
It was
always the
great.
first thing I get.
Sausage
So
was great.
I was like, you know what? We need to sausage them.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna be sausage because that's what we eat the most.
Right,
So we did in casings for some of the sausage, but some of the sausage is just in chubs where you could buy, online, just a pack of a chub.
yeah,
But we did breakfast sausage, so your standard breakfast sausage that
Right.
you would get out of a tube.
yeah.
We did that. We did maple breakfast
Right,
sausage.
maple breakfast sausage.
We did chorizo,
Yeah,
which is amazing.
it's really good, it smells great,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we did smoked Polish kielbasa.
right,
We did sweet Italian sausage, hot Italian sausage, and regular Italian sausage. Brats.
beer
We
brats.
did beer brats.
Right, mix some Guinness and whatnot in the mix for the beer brats.
We did so much.
Yeah, yeah. So, and when you're making the sausage, if you've never made it before, I suspect a lot of people haven't, the difference between something like a Polish sausage and a breakfast sausage is probably just the spices and whatnot they put in it. I mean,
Well,
it could
the
be a
only
different
thing with the
casing,
Polish sausage, the smoked
Yeah.
Polish sausage,
Yeah.
you did need a little curing salt in.
little curing salt. So it's
In the
really, it's not
mixture.
the pork, because pork is pork.
Pork is pork.
It's what you
That's the
put into
base.
it in the process. So
Yeah.
we're able to take the pork and make the different kinds
Yes,
of sausages.
Italian sausage needs obviously
Yeah.
your spices for Italian sausage, but there's
Right.
also a little red wine vinegar in it to get that enhancement of those spices. And then the
Right.
chorizo, if you've never made chorizo from scratch before, and I have
Yeah.
made it a couple times,
Right.
that's taking your peppers and roasting your peppers
Right,
and putting
yeah,
all your stuff
yeah.
together and then blending it through
It's
the
all the stuff you
blender.
put in there, yeah.
And
Absolutely, yeah, but
But
it's
we
good,
did
we've
get a
tried
lot-
some, it's amazing.
Yes, we got a lot of different kinds. So, I mean, we're set for breakfast.
Right, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, and what
For a
they,
long
we,
time.
I know we did a lot of Italian
Yeah.
sausage, but we use Italian sausage
Yeah.
to, make pizzas with. So
Right.
that's a sausage we put on our pizzas. I'll
Yeah.
make pasta visual
Right,
with it.
right, yeah.
I put it in my lasagna.
Yeah,
You could put a half and a half sausage and regular ground beef to make your meatballs if you
Right,
want.
making meatballs, hamburgers you could if you
I
want.
mean,
a
there's
little
so many
sausage.
usage, that's
Right,
why we did 3 different
hamburgers.
types.
Right, yeah, multiple different types of sausage. Bangers and mash is always good. Just your sausages and the mashed potatoes. So
Yep,
a lot of yummy options. So we did a lot. We went sausage heavy this time.
we did. And for me, I have to eat low salt.
Yes.
So I was able to, another reason why
Yeah.
we like to be able to process
Right.
our own animals is because, one, the salt content of food in the stores is, the sodium
Ridiculous.
content
It's
is ridiculously
It's
high.
ridiculous. Yeah.
And I can adjust the amount of sodium,
Yeah.
amount of salt that I put in the sausage. So when
Right.
we make it, it still tastes delicious, but it's low sodium.
Right.
And that's
Right.
the same thing with chickens and turkeys. They soak them in a brine. A chicken and a turkey isn't high sodium food. It's that they soak them in a brine of salt and water to plump them up
Yeah.
so they can sell it for
Right. So
more
you can
weight.
sell it for more. So you're
And
paying.
it helps
You're
preserve
kind of
it.
paying for salt water.
Right.
A lot of it. Yeah.
A lot of it.
A lot of it.
Obviously, they don't add sodium to your red meat because
Yeah.
they can't soak the red meat because
Right,
it
make
changes.
it
But
right, make
when
it
they
pure.
make, what they do when they make sausage
Chickens
is
and
they
stuff,
add a
when
lot
they
of
do
sodium
sausage,
to
they
it.
do, yeah, absolutely.
So that's another
absolutely.
reason you
Right,
can
gives a lot more
control.
You control what's in it, how much salt's in
Right.
it, what cuts to use. And then I think we talk about not just the sausage, because we hit on the sausage a little bit, we hit on some of the cuts like the ribs and
Yeah,
whatnot.
we have baby back ribs, St. Louis
You know, we
style.
tried to use as much of the pig as we can, as we could, and I feel like we did use most of the animal. So there was very little waste. You want to talk about the bone broth adventure?
Yeah, when we raise these animals, you do have a connection to them.
You do, yeah.
They're part of your family, they're part
Right.
of your farm.
Right.
They have personalities, they're
Yeah.
wonderful, and a
Yeah.
lot of people think, how can you eat something you raised?
right.
And like you had said before, we know that we're giving them a good life,
Yeah.
and that life is filled with love,
Yeah,
and that, the day that they pass on, we wish them
Right.
well, we thank
Right.
them for what they've given us.
yeah,
They have a huge bowl of beautiful treats,
right.
and for them, all they know is that they're eating a big, beautiful bowl of treats,
Right,
and then they've
and
passed
that's
on.
over, right.
It's
right,
over.
Right,
But we want to make sure that we honor that animal because
Yeah.
that was a soul that was
right,
on this
yeah,
earth.
Yeah,
So what I did this time is I really wanted to make sure that I could use every bit. So you bought me a pressure canner,
Right, we got a
which
pressure
is
canner.
amazing.
She's loving it.
I love
loving
that
it,
electric
loving
pressure
it.
canner.
Yeah,
And I made bone broth.
right,
Bone broth, now we actually took most of both of these hogs off the bone.
yeah,
The only bones we kept were the ribs,
right, in terms of,
in
what-
terms of what
what
bone.
was in like a
is
meat
in the
cut,
freezer.
like, if you're gonna do a rack of ribs, there's bones in
Right,
that.
there's bones in that.
Right,
Besides
so all
that,
the other bones.
Everything else came off the bone because we
Right.
used it to grind.
Yeah.
So I was left with,
A lot of bones.
a lot of bones from
bones.
animals that were 3 feet tall.
Right,
Over
600
6 feet
pounds, 6
long.
feet long, yeah.
So I simmered those bones
Right.
with celery and onion and carrots
Yeah.
and some spices, some bay leaves, and I made pork bone broth, which is
For like
amazing.
2 weeks, 3 weeks to make it
It's
all
2 or
broth.
3 weeks. Yeah, what I did is I
Making
took
bone broth.
packages of those bones
right.
and I put them in the freezer.
Yeah,
And I
yeah, right.
came
So
out
you
and
can
I
shuffle
did
it through the freezer so that
I
it just
did it
sit.
in batches.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
I ended up with like 40 quarts
Yeah,
of bone broth
mhm,
and 40 or 50 pints
yeah,
of bone
a
broth.
bone broth.
I mean, it's bone,
It's
for
dark.
us, it's bone
It's
broth
dark.
enough until we butcher again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And
we'll
we'll probably
talk
show,
about that
once
later.
again, somewhere, we might do a little cut, we'll frame it about right there, maybe. There'll be a video that we can show the
Yeah,
bone
we did a
broth.
lot of bone broth,
Very
yeah.
dark, it's very dark.
It was very dark,
And then you
very
use
rich.
some of it, you already used
So
some of it
then
on
when
the
I was-
spaghetti sauce.
Yes, but as part of that bone broth, then
Yeah.
you want to strain it, obviously,
Right,
and I do
right,
have the
strained
video
it out,
for
yeah,
that.
let's strain the bone.
But you're left with tomatoes,
bits.
or you're
Yeah.
left with the veggies.
Yeah,
that,
veggies.
And you're left with a lot of meat that comes off the bone.
Right, yeah,
So what I did is when you actually strained it, I picked through all of that and made sure that I pulled all the bits of bones out.
right. All the
And
little
the
bits and
dogs ate
pieces and
good a
stuff,
couple
yeah.
times
Oh,
from
the
it
dogs
because
were
I
loving
spoiled
it.
the
They were
puppies.
loving it,
They
yeah.
had some of
Yeah.
the veggies and
Right,
the
they got a
meat.
little bit of all of it.
I saved some of it and I
Right.
used it to make
The
my
dressing?
stuffing,
Your stuffing,
their
the
dressing
stuffing,
for
yeah,
Thanksgiving,
yeah,
which was a huge hit.
yeah.
And I also gave some to my chickens.
Right, chickens ate some of it.
The
They'll
chickens
eat that.
ate some of
Chickens
it
can be a little
too.
carnivorous.
Oh yeah, they're little dinosaurs.
Right, they'll eat meat, believe me.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Yeah, so by the time
yeah.
we were done, those bones were clean, the marrow
Yeah.
was out of the middle of them, there was
Mhm.
like nothing left to them. The food that came off them were either consumed by us or the
Yeah,
animals that
right,
were here,
right.
so nothing, absolutely nothing from that pig went to waste
Right,
except the head.
right.
I'm gonna be honest, we
Yeah,
did not,
yeah, we didn't do anything with the head.
no,
Yeah,
there's not a lot.
yeah.
You know,
we did
we'll do,
some.
when
We
we
did a
buy
little bit,
cows
but
and stuff
not,
like
yeah.
that, we'll do like
Yeah, the
cow
cheeks,
tongue
we
and
did
stuff
the
like
cheek,
that.
we didn't keep
But
the
we
tongue.
we kept the
The organs,
kidneys.
yeah, the internal organs.
Kept the kidneys
kept the
and
organs.
the heart.
We'll do dog treats out of most
And
of that.
what I'll do is do dog treats, yeah.
Right,
We
yeah.
did not keep the liver or the lungs just
Right.
because of the roundworms in the pigs. Butchers don't
Yeah,
usually,
not to say our pigs
give
had
you-
roundworms, but it's just a general safety.
it's just something that they.
Just general safety, we're feeling like just to be extra safe,
Yeah.
we don't wanna keep that.
Yeah, they looked relatively healthy,
Yeah,
but it's all, you know, if your butcher's not gonna give you a pig's
Yeah.
liver, don't keep a pig's liver then and give it to
right,
your
right,
dogs,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, we just being
So we're
better
just
safe
being
than sorry
extra
on
safe.
that. Right, so I
Yeah.
mean, we had, you're talking about the entire day, 14 plus a 15-hour day to butcher,
Mm-hmm.
plus a week just to make the sausage, plus 3 weeks of making the bone broth, plus the time to process the leaf fat into the lard that
Yep.
we can use.
Mhm.
Said now tomorrow's bacon day, so we're gonna spend at least an
Tomorrow's
entire
bacon day.
day deli slicing bacon and putting
I
it
think
in
we're
freezer
like,
bags.
we're almost a month past now.
Right, that we've been working on this probably, 3-4
3,
weeks,
4 weeks, yeah.
3-4 weeks past, so I mean,
Mhm.
it's a lot of time. But we don't just do it to save money, I mean, there is a money factor to it, certainly. It brings the cost down a lot, there's the cost to purchase the animal, there's the cost to feed the animal throughout its life. But then if you're going to send it to a butcher, now there's potential transportation costs. No matter how you do it, whether you're renting a trailer, whether you bought a trailer, you had to pay to buy that trailer, plus the butcher costs, and then, the time at the butcher, so we'd rather do it ourselves, and it does bring the cost down, it saves us a lot of money, as we're going through that, right?
Right.
As we're doing that, so,
And I like the fact that the girls come here and they spend their lives here, they enjoy themselves.
right, there's no
They
bad
they
day.
get a lot of loves and they don't have a bad day. They don't
Right.
have a day that they're scared that they have to
Don't
get on.
understand why they're on a trailer.
They don't
or-
understand why mom and dad got rid of them and,
Right,
you
what's
know.
going on, yeah.
It's just
no,
how I
it's just
feel.
another
I mean,
day.
for me, I want it to be, them to be
Right.
home with us,
Yeah, the entire
surrounded
time.
by, you
Right, they
know,
like their little house and food
yeah,
and all that
a
stuff.
nice
yeah.
safe feeling for them.
So to talk a little bit about cost, and as you guys all know, with the economy, things have gotten more expensive. Cost of food's gotten more expensive. The pigs were getting pretty expensive towards the end. I'm going to talk about the math more on the last pig because there was only one pig, and I felt like we had a better grasp of how much that cost, and the prices were pretty consistent
Our pig from
throughout the lifespan.
that we butchered
right,
in
before.
February
Right, yeah,
of
the
this
last
year.
pig. So we know we paid, I think it was about $80.
She was $80.
$80 for the feeder pig. We calculated the cost of food. We had a good sense for how many bags, like a bag a week kind of thing, on the one pig. We're not calculating the cost of any supplemental where we give them like leftovers. That's one thing. Let me get through this and let's talk about the advantage of not wasting anything at all around the house because the pigs will eat it. But so I think we came out, it was between like somewhere over $300, between $300 to $400 in total cost in the animal plus the food. We butchered ourselves, so there was no cost there. And out of the last pig, we got over 300 pounds of meat. So you're looking at less than $2 a pound and really only slightly over $1. So you could say $1 a pound. Is it a lot of work? Yeah, sure, it's a lot of work. But now you've got bacon at $1 a pound, and you've got pork chops at $1
Right.
a pound, and it's fresh.
And it depends on your area. I know in
Yeah.
our area, it's like $12, $13 a pound
Yeah, right,
for
yeah,
basic bacon.
right. So I mean, you're saving a ton of money. Yeah, is it for everybody? No, of course not. That's okay, right? It's not going to be for everybody. But that's why, right? That's why you do it. You're getting very fresh, fresh meat. You know what the animal's raised. You know how the animal was treated. You know what kind of food it ate. We know everything that went into it, And then,
You
know,
don't waste food.
yeah, and
when
then we
you
can kind
raise
of
it
jump into
yourself,
that. Yeah, if you
yeah.
want to talk about that, because we're already missing that part of it, is the not wasting
You don't
leftovers.
waste.
Yeah.
No, I mean when you butcher something.
Oh, when you're butchering, you're not wasting.
In
Yeah.
a consumer
Right,
standpoint,
right.
you don't waste it.
Yeah, no,
You know,
what I
that
meant.
pork chop means a lot to you.
Yeah,
when it goes
absolutely.
on your plate, when
Right.
you took
You've been
that
through that whole thing.
that pig from a
process,
baby
yeah, all
through
way
the butchering process.
Yeah, yeah. What I meant was the recycling side of it, the leftovers.
Yeah.
If you want to talk
They're
about
good
that at all.
garbage cans.
Yeah,
Love them.
yeah,
Well, I mean, and there's two trains of thought. There's
Yeah.
people who don't believe in giving pigs meat ever,
right.
ever.
Yeah.
You know, they don't do it.
Yeah,
There's a law in your state, and look it up,
yeah,
that says if you raise hogs, if you can give them your own leftovers.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
Right,
there's
right,
a law in your
right.
state, and you have to
That's
look in
good
your
to know.
state.
Yeah.
If you can give them leftovers enough.
Right.
If you're doing your hog for personal consumption, or if you're doing it as a hog farmer.
Yeah.
So I would say look it up. Our
Right, look it
state,
up.
I know
Yeah.
that since we do it for personal consumption,
Right.
that we can give leftovers to our
Okay.
hogs. But it really is
Okay,
state by
so
state.
yeah, may not be for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're in the United States, so
Right.
it is state by state, yes.
Right, so yeah, and what we were talking about is whenever you have table scraps, whenever you have leftovers, if you're buying lettuce to make a salad and it starts to go bad and you don't want to eat it, you give it to the pigs.
Yeah, and fruit,
Right.
when it
Right.
starts getting a little too squishy and,
Yeah.
people might toss it, we
Yeah.
don't toss anything.
All right, so we had a little technical difficulty there. We're coming back in. So we were just talking about how when you have the animals on your property, it really helps you not waste as much, not just the meat from the animal, but just the things you have, your leftovers and whatnot. What you can feed to the chickens, what you can feed to the pigs might be a little lower, than what we might eat ourselves, but it's stuff you would throw away otherwise, right? And you don't have as much, so we feel better about having the animals and just not having that waste. And we're kind of noticing that now, that we don't have the animals. So one thing we want to talk a little bit about is kind of improvements over time. If you're watching some of our older video, previous butchering, the last one we had a bone saw. It's a little gruesome, and we did it mostly by hand. This time you might have noticed we've got the meat bandsaw. We got that at Atwood's. It's actually on Black Friday special right now.
It is $100 off.
I know someone was saying they were interested in that. If you go to Atwood's, they've got the bandsaw. That's a great tool to have. We got some meat processing blades for the reciprocating saw. That made a huge difference to be able to bring the reciprocating saw in. So the tools, just like any job, the tools do make a big difference.
Absolutely.
We got electric knife sharpener. That's helped a lot, so we weren't having to sharpen the knives by hand as much. We got some General Cow tuna processing knives that you see in the videos inside. So we're trying to, as we can afford it, improve the quality of the tools, and the way we look at it is the money we save on the processing fee, right? We're kind of paying that, we're saving that money, paying back that to ourselves. We can justify spending money then on butchering equipment and still save money, off the cost it had. We just bought it at the grocery store, right? We could just say, hey, I'm not gonna deal with any of that, buy the meat at the grocery store. We're gonna spend a lot more money on that. So, I mean, we can take that savings and kind of invest some of it back into getting better tools, better equipment.
That we can reuse.
We can use for other things. Like when we got the meat butcher saw, we used it to kind of reprocess some of the older cuts, right? And certainly good kitchen knives you can use for a lot of things.
Right, we decided to take our full-size hams down to ham steaks once we got the blade saw, which was nice.
Saw, yeah, you got some shorts on that. People seem to like shorts. I've noticed cutting any short, whether you're cutting a piece of wood or whether you're cutting a piece of meat, those blow up. So we'll probably drop a video somewhere on here of us cutting something. We'll go for clicks there. People love watching stuff get chopped for some reason. So we'll put some of those in there. There's a little YouTube psychology for you. Not that channel's that crazy, but I've noticed people like the videos of the cutting. So yeah, we're trying improvements over time, trying to use more of the animal over time. We just kind of talked earlier that we're not making soap maybe next time. we'll think about it, we'll talk about it. We wanna make sure we're getting, using everything, we're not wasting as we're going into it. You know, it's a lot of hours, to do it right, do it properly. So what's next, right? We got new pigs coming at some point, we're already looking at some new animals maybe.
Yeah, we're gonna let the land rest
Yep, we'll let the land rest, and we're already cleaning up the,
until spring.
yep, cleaning up the pig pen, and we're putting out, we seeded it, so we'll get some grass, some good protein grass growing in there.
I put some tall fescue out,
Right,
there's already some
fescue.
clover mix that's out there.
Right,
Yeah,
Right,
they
let it
did
rest a
their
little
work
bit.
in the garden for us to help
Right.
build our soil up.
yep, they're building up the
So
garden.
yeah, right now we're gonna let the land rest until spring.
Yeah.
Plus, we're giving you some time off.
Giving me some time off, it's kind of a lot of work, you know, it really is, caring for the animals, a
Wintering
lot
a
of work.
pig is difficult.
Wintering is tough, yeah, I mean, in the summer, it was every day, checking on the food, making sure they have water, making sure they're okay, going out, visiting them. When we did give them access to the garden, it's every day, let them into the garden. We closed them up at night, just so they'd be, you know, kind of push them towards their home, but they did like being in their home. It is a lot of work, and it's work every day. Last winter, I think it was last winter, we had a
We
big
wintered a
freeze.
pig
Yeah, we
last
wintered, and then
year.
that's several times a day going outside. Because if it's freezing outside, any water dish you do is gonna freeze, so it's several times a day, bringing out fresh water, warm water.
Yeah, cause the trough froze too.
Yeah, the trough froze, everything froze.
And we could put
you know.
one of those warmers in the trough.
Yeah,
but
we don't really quite have
pigs are pretty
electricity over
inquisitive,
there,
and I
yeah.
worry that they might.
Yeah, chew on electrical
Chew on
cables
the
or
electrical
anything, yeah,
cable,
we
yeah.
don't quite have electrical that far out there yet.
And at that time, the pig that we had, she
Yeah.
was pretty sassy.
Right,
So
she
she
probably
would've-
would've chewed it up.
Yeah,
She
she would've
pretty much was gonna
she
chew on
would've
anything. she
drug
could
it
chew
into
on.
her house and said it's mine.
Right, yeah, she
Yeah.
was very possessive of everything.
Oh, I
So
loved
yeah,
her.
over
She was
win-
great.
Yeah, she was sweet. So over winter's a lot of work, like I said, it was many times a day going out, bringing them warm water, pour
Right.
some hot water
So
on
he
the
gets
water
the winter
bowl.
off.
Right, so yeah, we're definitely taking the winter off. And we have a lot of pork, right, we got a lot of pork in the
Yeah, we
freezer
do.
now. So we're talking about coons next time.
Cooney coonies.
Coonies, which is a different experience. It's a
Yeah.
heritage breed.
They are lard pigs.
Right,
So there's a difference. You have,
Yeah.
well, we've been raising this whole time are feeder pigs.
Yeah.
And feeder pigs are, well, bigger, obviously, but they have more muscle mass.
right,
So that's where you're gonna get your hams and your pork chops that are gonna be, lean.
yeah,
It's your traditional feeder pig is what you get from the store.
Yeah.
The lard pigs, so you got your pot bellies and your coonies, those are, made for lard, is, the
Right,
lard
the
that you
lard.
see at the store.
Candles and,
Yeah.
yeah, and soap.
But they
and-
do, like, what they'll have is the pork chop will have marbling in it,
Yeah.
like a steak. And
Right,
you
that
don't
Kobe,
get,
they say that Kobe.
yeah, and you don't get that with,
Right.
with the feeder pig, but you do
Yeah.
with the lard pigs, like the Mangalisas and,
Right, right,
now an Idaho pasture pig, which I think would be pretty cool to
Yeah,
raise
yeah.
someday, that is like the best of both worlds. That
Okay.
is part feeder pig
Part feeder pig.
and part
Part
lard pig.
yeah, yeah.
So they're supposed to be like the beginning of what a feeder pig would be. So they'll still have marbling in them,
Yeah.
but they're supposed to not root like a feeder pig.
Oh, okay, they
Because
do
feeder
root.
pigs root
They
like
root,
crazy.
they'll
I mean,
dig up
they're like,
everything.
yeah.
They dig up
Especially the red
everything.
wattles, because
Right.
red wattles are native to the
Yeah,
area. So
right.
I mean, if you had, and if we had, 10, 15 acres and you had it heavily wooded, they will clear for you.
Right, they'll clear the ground,
Because
and you see
they'll
that.
live off
Other
roots and
people on
grubs
their videos and
and,
stuff, you can see that kind of thing where they're using them to
Yeah.
clear the land.
not just use them to
Right,
clear, they,
right.
they cut down on their feed costs because
Mhm.
they don't have to feed them as much when they're
Right.
living off the land.
Right, absolutely, and we
You know.
noticed that cut down when we let them in the garden. The amount of food they ate went down almost in half.
Yeah, they got
Because they were clearing the
they got
garden
the
for
pumpkin
us.
patch.
Right,
and-
pumpkin
they
patch
got
and,
yeah.
all that stuff, and, we let them in to clear the garden. I mean, you're getting no value out of, all the plants after all the season's over and plants are dying off.
Right, they enjoyed eating the
And they
leaves.
ate it all, and then once again, that converts back
Because
into.
pumpkin leaves are edible,
Right.
and they know
Yeah.
what they can eat and what they can't.
Yeah, it's great recycling.
I
They cleared the
grew
garden
that stuff for
us.
them anyway, to
Right.
be
Yeah,
realistic.
yeah,
But
right.
the coonies are smaller.
They're smaller.
So they're like 100 to
Right.
maybe 200 if they're fat.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
so they're tiny, and I'm used to 600-pound pigs.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
No, that's just
I'm
what we've
used to a
always
pig
done.
that I can't fit my arms
Right, you
around.
can't, right.
And I mean, I love big pigs,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
I mean, our last pig was amazing.
yeah.
You know, I used to lay on the ground and tell her stories and
Right,
stuff. I mean,
right,
I just
yeah,
love,
super sweet, super
love the
sweet.
big girls.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, I wanna try,
Changing it up.
I wanna change it up, try our
Yeah.
hands at the little coonies
Right,
and
try
see
the
what they're
smaller
like.
pigs,
Plus
yeah,
they're double
yeah.
wattled and I have a
Right.
thing for the little wattled pigs.
Right, the little wattles, yeah,
And they
yeah.
are adorable.
Right, super
They're
cute.
super, super cute, so
Yeah. And they
we'll
grow
see.
slower. They grow slower is the
They
thing.
do, they actually aren't, ready to harvest until about 18 months.
Right.
So
it's
you're
much
putting
slower, so
in,
we're putting some time.
yeah,
We just don't need the meat right now.
we don't need
But
the
we wanna
meat.
raise the pigs,
We'd like
so
to
we
try a
slow
little
it,
bit
slow
different
it.
meat, and yeah,
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
consume as much as a feeder pig. They don't free feed, that's the
Right.
difference. You know, if you're raising a feeder pig, you wanna have a free feeder, because you want maximum growth.
Right.
You know, coonies, you actually, you know, measure their food out and you just feed them a couple times a day.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so it's gonna be a different process, probably an easier process than the feeders, because the feeders are big.
Yeah,
And,
right.
you know, they
Right,
destroy a
we'll
lot of
make
stuff.
videos, you'll
but-
see it. You guys will see as soon as we get them. It'll be
Yeah,
up on
and I just love
page probably in
pigs,
the
so,
spring.
I mean, we need pigs.
Right.
I
Yeah,
gotta have pigs
yeah,
on the
love pigs,
homestead,
yeah,
it makes my
right.
heart happy.
Absolutely. We're talking springtime. The heritage are more expensive and you get less meat and you're feeding them for longer. So I don't suspect, you know, in terms of ROI, like saying, hey, we saved all this money on pork. Probably not gonna happen with the feeder pigs, but we just wanna give it a try. Oh, I'm
Right.
sorry, with the coons, with the heritage breeds.
Right, but you know
'Cause
what,
they take
when you
longer,
think
they
about
might
it though,
not
you're
eat as
not, you
much.
can't roll to the store and be like, oh, gosh, I'd like a nice fillet of cooney.
Right.
You can't get that.
Right, you get
You
whatever
know,
they
these
give you,
are,
you just
these
get
are
the
specialty
feeders.
meat
Right,
cuts.
yeah,
So when you
Right.
think about return on investment,
right.
I don't know
It's
how
more
much,
especially
honestly, I
we
don't know how
we
much
don't
it
know how much they eat.
costs. If
Yeah,
it's the Kobe
right.
of pork,
Right,
you know,
maybe
I don't
that's
know
the
how
good
much.
stuff. Right,
Yeah.
we'll see. So we'll kind of keep track of that as we're going. I think they're gonna eat less, but they live longer. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
Should
guys,
be
I think
fun.
that's it.
Alrighty.
All right, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, make them watch it if you have to. Hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to ask us any questions. We're here to answer and,
Yeah,
keep an eye out for more
always
videos. We're gonna put some cuts in. Tomorrow we're doing the bacon. So expect some videos, maybe some shorts, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
See
see.
you on the bacon. We're trying out the new camera and we're kind of having fun with that as well.
Yeah.
All right, thanks guys.
Thanks a lot.